that's true. Naked Palpatine.
Oh, you pick that one. Fresh out of the clone tank, nude Palpatine is my
Well, that's the first thing I think of when you say Dark Empire Palpatine.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to not the Expanded Universe again. To this alternative timeline, this not Disney canon, this not Expanded Universe, this possible third reality of fanfiction land, created by Handofthrawn45, and I don't know why I started to sound like Jeff Goldblum for a second from Jurassic Park. Life finds a way. Today we're gonna talk about Handofthrawn45. Anyway, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. This is Promises by Handofthrawn45. This is an epilogue to Legacy of the Force, kind of a coda, if you will. The whole premise that Handofthrawn45 thought with this one is that there are three separate people that have big trauma or just relations when it comes to solos. So what better way to make a story about all three of them as kind of like this epilogue piece and character piece for all three of them, along with also there was supposed to be a book before Fate of the Jedi which explained what was going on with ZekK, because ZekK disappeared at the end of Legacy of the Force and he just kind of pops up again in Fate of the Jedi. So this was meant to bridge that gap. So the story focuses on Tino Ka, as she of course must get over Jacen Solo, later known as Darth Kaitis, Tahiri, who due to her trauma and due to everything with Jacen Solo, needs to get over Anakin Solo yet again. And all the trauma and, you know, stuff of her going to the dark side and trying to overcome that and come back to the light. And then we have ZekK, who has been a third wheel with Jaina and Jag since the start of the Vong War. And for him to finally move on and not be a simp no more. That's basically the whole vibe of this book, and it basically some moths wanted to make, you know, they made a virus for the Mandalorians, they made a virus for Tino Ka and Alana. They also wanted to make a Jedi virus. I don't know exactly how this would work. I don't think Handofthrawn properly explained how this would function. I suppose it would do with midichlorians, but then that would theoretically kill everyone, because everyone has a little bit of it. That's the whole point. The midichlorian count determines if you're able to use the Force or not. Right? Like, that's the whole vibe. So, would it only be targeting people with a high midichlorian count? I don't know. Because that could theoretically backfire and kill everyone. I don't think this particular aspect of the story was something that I rather liked. It just doesn't make a lot of sense how that would even function. I mean, of course, it was going to be using Vong stuff, which, again, applies to Tahiri, because she knows all about the Vong. Anyway, so that's kind of like the crux of it. And then you got ZekK hanging out with Tino Ka's cousins. You have Tino Ka dealing with everything. And then Tahiri. But overall, all three stories converge, and they all kind of move on and get their epilogue and get their moving forward kind of story arc. And it's a nice little character piece in all these people. Especially ZekK, who's been kind of put to the side since, let's be honest, New Jedi Order. I mean, when has ZekK been a main character or somebody of great importance in any of these books? Like, you can't even blame Denning for this. Like, ZekK has been third wheeling this entire plot line since the start of New Jedi Order. His time to shine was Young Jedi Knights, and that was it. It has not focused on him since. He's been in it. He's been a character. He's had some moments. But he's not been the focal point. So this was a nice way to give him something. Overall, it's not perfect, but I enjoyed the fanfiction for what it was. And again, I give props, right? Because, again, Handofthrawn45 is one of the people who says they don't like Legacy of the Force and the era set after New Jedi Order. You know, that's like half the fan base, you have the other half that likes it. I don't think anybody argues that it's better than New Jedi Order or anything, but, you know, it's the split of whether or not you like it or not. But despite his personal feelings on it, he wanted to write stories within that setting because he felt he could make things worthwhile in that setting. So, like, we had the Destinies one, which took place after Darkness but before Legacy of the Force, and that's a great transition piece into Legacy of the Force in terms of Jason Solo's character development. And he didn't have to do that. He didn't have to write a story set during that time, but he did. And it's all the better for it. And then you have this one after Legacy of the Force, is sort of coda. I think overall, when it comes to character stuff, the plot is a little bit not as fantastic, I think. But the character moments, superb. Again, it's not canon or anything, but it is a nice little story to read after Legacy of the Force. So, and until we get new stories, you know, and even if we do get new stories, I highly doubt we'll ever get that lost ZekK story, ever. So, you know, I don't think, even if I get my wish that Legends be continued, that we'll ever get a story that actually fills in that gap. I don't think that will ever happen. We might have stuff set after Crucible, but we'll never have stuff, you know, set in that in-between section. So, I mean, you could probably accept this in your head if you so wanted to. It doesn't really contradict anything. It's just a nice little story of all of them after the events of Legacy of the Force, before Fate of the Jedi, which is only like a 2-year gap anyway. But yeah, I recommend it. If you don't want spoilers, now's your time to go. It's a fun little fan fiction, and hey, it's expanded universe centric, which is why I'm doing these fan fiction explorations, you know. But I'm going to be the one YouTuber that's reviewed them all. I swear it, you know, just to say that I've done it, you know. I know I got friends that tell me Handofthrawn45 is great. He has a lot of value to Expand Universe, even though it's not the Expand Universe. I have a lot of fans that dislike his prose and everything, so it really depends on the individual, and it won't be for everyone. I mean, I haven't read his Sword of the Jedi trilogy yet, which seems to be the most controversial, but he's a big enough name that keeps getting brought up in the fandom enough that I want to give him his due and critique his work. And I don't want to do it, you know, with the, you know, advocate that it's a fan fiction. Because, you know, if people are going to say this is their headcanon as to what happens after Crucible and stuff like that, then I have to critique it as I would an actual novel. So we'll see when we get there. But as for this little story, I think it's pretty decent. And I think the main plot is kind of some phenomenal things that I think are genuine things I wish the actual EU did, was that we got like a Vong that became a smuggler. And I won't give you more than that for spoiler reasons, but like I wanted more of that. I wanted more of the Vong post New Jedi Order. We got that with Mercy Kill, but that was also like a child during the Vong War. Like, this was an adult. He was an attendant. You know, he was around. He has memories of the war. But stuff happened. Now he's just a smuggler. And I think that there's a lot of interesting things you could do there with the Vong. You know, so I'm excited to see what everything has in store for us there. And that's it. So, anyway. Spoiler sections now, baby. Hold on a second. Anyway, spoiler section time. So in the beginning, we get Tino Kaw's perspective at the end of Invincible, which is really nice. Get to have her be like, oh, the last moments, was he Jason? Because he called out to me to protect me and my child. And then we get Tahiri and all the guilt that she's feeling over the events of the last couple books. There's also a great Ben and Tahiri scene, because Ben is very much like his father, in the sense of he's all about forgiveness and everything, and, people want to poke fun at that one scene, Invincible, with him and Tahiri, but here he is, despite everything, being like, I don't think Jason was very redeemable, but I don't see why you can't be, because at the end of the day, Jason believed what he was doing was what was necessary. You never felt like you were doing the right thing. Not really. you know. You always felt a bit bad about it. And I think that speaks volumes to you. So there's a lot more to that scene, but just a really nice scene between the two of them. And Jason's funeral. They debated whether or not they're going to actually give him one. And, you know, they keep making analogies to Dark Journey, when they had the funeral for Anakin. You know, and how many people were there to celebrate the life that was lost. And how small the funeral was for Jason. Luke was there. Ben was there. Jaina was there. I think Tahiri was there. I forget now. You know, Han, Leia. That was it. Tino Ka. And Alana. They're not exactly missing him, but also mourning him, but not mourning him. Very complicated set of emotions there. But it was a scene I think handled well. Regardless whether you like the series or not, I think that this little story handles the aftermath of it quite well. We also learned that Tavira, who was in another fanfiction of his set before the events of New Jedi Order, we learned that she was still alive during New Jedi Order. She's not in this story, but we do learn that her crew was hanging around during New Jedi Order, so it's interesting. She manages to avoid death consistently. Her and Dala just won't go away. And on the one hand, I like Dala, I don't like Tavira, and I'm sure that will piss off so many Stackpole fans, but I'm sorry. I don't care that she's grown up and evolved as a character, that she's by this point, like what, a 40 to 50-year-old woman? She's older by this point, but I will never not see her as a little 16-year-old girl with a bunch of stormtroopers trying to tell people what to do. Not to mention, in iJedi, she's just this sexual thing for Corran Horn, for Corran Horny, because Corran is the perfect Jedi that can't be stopped by anything except lust and infidelity, even though he has goth mommy Myrax. Married. Already. Myrax, Tavira. You tell me what you prefer right there. I think it's Myrax. Easily. So it's a stupid conflict to begin with. But this isn't iJedi. Anyway, the point being, Tavira won't die. Is she dead by now? Who knows? But we know that as far as New Jedi Order, she was still kicking. At least according to this fanfiction author. And then we meet the Vong smuggler. He's such a great character, even though I didn't bother to write down his name because it was long and I didn't feel like doing it. But it was like Praxless or something. But he's wearing a human masker, Ugla masker thing. So he's just been living his best life since the Vong War. Basically, he was an attendant, and his ship, they were supposed to be fighting the Hutts because the Hutts, you know, betrayed them and everything. So he got crashed down with the warrior cast. Instead of fighting beside them, he bailed. He ran. And so the warriors fought and died, and he just escaped with his Uglith masker, and he just went about living life. Didn't even think about it. Hasn't really even thought about his people that much. Doesn't even really consider them his people necessarily, you know? And later on, Tahiri will even ask him, like, do you regret running and not sticking with your men? And he's like, to be honest, no. You know, this is my life now, and I enjoy it. You know, for better or worse, this is what I am now, and that was my choice, and I wouldn't change anything. It's just nice. I wish this character was canon to the EU, because I would love to see. I mean, he's just a smuggler, but like, I would love him to become like a main character or something. Like, he was that interesting to me. But this Vong smuggler, because they found ZekK, they picked him up, you know, because he was, I forget, he crashed again or something, and it was Jag who crashed in Darkness, and it was ZekK who crashed in Legacy of the Force, but they found him, and they want him to help smuggle something. And then we also have the crew that promises to take Tahiri to all these Vong form places, because there are still a bunch of them. And I don't want to say too much without you reading the story, but it's just done really well, and I really enjoyed the dynamics between the three of them. Um, Also on this Von form planet that Tahiri goes to, there's these half Voxin. So Voxin are always like these really big things, but since they're not breeding them anymore, and I don't know how lore accurate this would be, so this might be something like a cool idea but doesn't fit. But like these like half oxen where they're not as big, they're like maybe like dog size now. Their teeth are still poisonous and everything, and their claws are still big and will hurt, but they can't spit acid or anything. They can't sense the Jedi in the Force or anything, so like they're like a limited version of what a Voxin is. But they were cool. The twins, the cousins of Tino Ka, meet ZekK, and of course Tarn starts flirting heavily with ZekK because she likes him a lot. And this little short story does a great job of building the Tarn and ZekK relationship, because it's just a thing that's just kind of begun and just is a thing in Fate of the Jedi. So it was nice to kind of see that build, and I'll get to it in a second. But then we have this hospital bed convo between Tarn and ZekK, and it was really nice, she's like, well, you saved me, I had to return the favor. And they're talking for a bit, and she's like, I really think you should come back with us to Hapes for a bit. We could use somebody like you, and you're a guy, so they're going to underestimate you on this planet. He's like, I should go back to the Jedi. And she's like, what do you have with the Jedi right now? Like, really? Outside of, like, the obligation that you feel you have. And he can't answer. He's like, yeah, I think you need to get over Solos. She's too short for you anyway. And it was just a really well done scene between the two. I felt chemistry between them, which is good, considering they're just a thing in Fate of the Jedi without any explanation whatsoever. So it was done well. And, ZekK has been a sim for far too long in terms of having liked Jaina since Young Jedi Knights, which has been a long time ago by this point. So it's like over 12 years now since, the Vong War even happened. So that's like almost 20 years since he was in a relationship with her. It's time to move on. So I like that. And then lastly, we had the Tahiri and that Vong guy at the end of it. Then she asks him, and I mentioned this already kind of, but she asks him if he misses it, if he felt like he made a mistake, and he says no. She asked to join his crew, but this is more of a test for herself than actually committing to this. And he says, I don't think you'd fit here. Which honestly felt like relief to her that, he said that. He's like, I think you should return to the Jedi. She's like, I don't know if I can do that yet. He's like, well, there's always bounty hunting. He's like, I don't know about that either. He's like, well, you don't belong with us smugglers, I'll tell you that much. And, just a good little moment between the two of them. But, like I said, overall, I thought Promises was it's one of the shorter stories he's ever written, Handofthrawn45, but it's a really decent little one, and a nice epilogue to Legacy of the Force. So, if you want some possible story that could have possibly, of course it's not canon to the EU, it will never be canon to the EU, but if you ever wanted to see, like, some resolutions to character arcs after Legacy of the Force, before Fate of the Jedi, and you just want to see a possible version of that, this is the story to check out, and I do recommend it. Till next time, guys, may the Force be with you, and I finally return with an official Star Wars work, Cross Current by Paul S. Kemp, where we get to see our boy Jaden Core from the Jedi Academy video game. Till next time, guys, may the Force be with you.